Good morning, everyone. Today I am doing a Q&A about my job here at the Getty. But first, I need to get to my office, get ready for a meeting, and then I'll answer our first question. Good morning. Time to get breakfast. Okay, I don't want a burrito. But a pastry? Good morning. Good morning. Okay, while everything loads, I thought I'd answer my first question, which is, what is my position here at the Getty? I am a research assistant. My position is spread between two main focuses. So I am a research assistant for the African American Art History Initiative, where I specifically support the research of Samela Lewis project here at the Getty. And then I also work with academic outreach, where I help with the Getty Research Institution build out programming, workshops, and things to that nature directly relevant to professional development and research development for graduate students and junior scholars or young professionals or professionals that are related to, even if it's tangentially, to art history. Okay, I'm on my way to the meeting and I have no idea where I'm going. Oh, this is a very blue room. Okay, I'm on my way to have another meeting with my boss. I'm gonna get some water before that meeting, but I thought I'd answer my second question in the transition, and that is, how long have I been working with the Getty? I worked originally for about 9 months during the transition from being closed out during the pandemic, so 2021 to 2022. Hi, how are you? And then I did field work, and so I didn't continue working, and then I got rehired again this summer in June, and now I'm here. Okay, food is secure. Lunchtime. Okay, time to eat. Look at this view on my lunch. Okay, so I got lunch. The meeting went really, really well. I don't usually eat outside because the sun often suns very much in Los Angeles, but I thought today it might be fun. But we'll see if I stay out here because the lighting's a little intense. So yeah, all in all, I've been working here at the Getty for, a cumulative 14 months, 15 months. And so far it's been very positive. This second round of working here has been way more positive than the first. But again, there was practically nobody here in the office when I was working here before. I was working in a very limited capacity, and here I'm much more integrated as part of the program or part of the African American Art History Initiative at the Getty this time around, and so it feels a lot more affirming and a lot more fun, honestly. Look at this view. Another question that I think people have asked and I would love to answer is, what are my responsibilities? So generally, as a research assistant, I do a lot of administrative work. Now, I think it's important to say, if you are applying to the Getty to be a research assistant, there are a variety of different things that you could do, and it's all dependent on your supervisors. Like I said earlier, I have two supervisors, or two responsibilities. One supervisor oversees academic outreach, the other advisor looks at the African American Art History Initiative, and I support them both. And so administratively, I may help create spreadsheets, I might do basic research, I might look for citations, build bibliographies, and things like that. And that's mostly on the African American Art History Initiative. In regards to academic outreach, the work that I do is really compiling resources, looking at what is going on in the field of academic outreach, and kind of building out programming or supporting the process of collecting data to build out programming. I had to come inside because that sun was really sunning. I thought I was going to brave it out for you all, but absolutely not. In relation to that previous question, I think another question is, what is it like to work at the Getty, and a little bit about my experience. And I think in general, it genuinely depends on what department you're in, what your responsibilities are, and who your supervisor is. So even like in the two different times that I worked here, my first time I was still a research assistant, same exact title. I worked 10 hours a week. Now I work 20 hours a week. And I didn't work for, like, my supervisors were not anybody in the Getty. They were research scholars, meaning they won a fellowship here at the Getty. So they were writing their books, and it was my job to serve as a research assistant and support their efforts. Now, if you want to see what a day in the life of my life then when I was a research assistant, you should watch this video next. But genuinely, what I do now is completely different. Now I work for, again, two separate supervisors that are full-time Getty staff or faculty. And because of that, I'm working on programs and operations that directly impact the Getty. So before, I was helping researchers write their book, and now I'm helping the Getty with their two projects, which is AHI and then academic outreach. And so it's hard to say what your experience would be like or what your responsibilities are, because even in the same position, the same exact job, I have a completely different experience, and that's just because I have different supervisors. So research assistant at the Getty is one of the most diverse or multiple pluralistic positions you can have, because the title is the same, but your responsibilities will 100,000% change based off of who you are working for. So depending on, if you are working in a special project, if you're working on an initiative, if you're working, your responsibilities and expectations will look different. And so I can't tell you what you will do as a research assistant. But I will say, if you live in LA and you're looking for extra money, I don't think it's a bad gig at all. I think, again, depending on your supervisor, it is a pretty cushy, stress-free job that can add a lot of professional development, and for me, a lot of networking. And if that's something important to you, if you want to do research in museums or you want to build connections in a specific field, becoming a research assistant can very much be the avenue that gives you access to those relationships or to that professional development. How competitive is it to work at the Getty? And again, this really depends on what job you're applying to and where it's located. The Getty is made up of two separate, well, technically three separate entities, but generally there's the trust, which is where all the money, the foundation, and all of that's like the overarching umbrella that the Getty exists under. Then there's the Getty Museum, which is what most people would know if you were a visitor. That's the people that deal with the workings of the arts and the gallery spaces and all that jazz. And then there's the Research Institute, which is where I work. And this is where the library is housed and where most researchers and scholars are going to go through. I think if you are applying to more of the public facing institutions like the Trust, like the Getty Museum, those jobs are going to be very, very competitive because most people know it's a thing and a lot of people will be looking out for those job postings. I don't think a lot of people understand what the Getty Research Institute is, even though it's literally on the same exact campus, same exact space. When you come to the Getty Museum, the Getty Research Institute is there. But people don't see them as separate entities, and so it's easy for the Getty Research Institute to kind of be overlooked. I feel like I have no proof, but I feel like I was maybe like one of possibly 3 people to apply for this job. And I think because also oftentimes there are a ton of research assistant positions, applying to a research assistant position isn't as competitive as if you are trying to be a curatorial assistant at the Getty Museum. So it does depend on what your job is, what your expertise are, and all of that jazz. And so it's hard to be like, yeah, super competitive, you won't get it. But I also can't say, oh, it's super easy, you're a shoo-in. It really depends on where you are applying and how common or popular that position is in the scheme of like public knowledge. When I planned this Q&A, I had no meetings on my schedule, but every time I open up my calendar, I have a new meeting. So I'm on my way to another meeting, but I thought I should answer another question before I do that. And that is, how would you describe the hiring process to get into the Getty? For me, even though I had the hunch that nobody else was really applying, I think in all, I applied, and within the week that I applied, I got invited for an interview, which is why I think nobody else applied. But then after the interview, there was an initial interview, then there was like a week or a week and a half, and then there was a second interview with another person. So 2 people interviewed me. And then after the second interview, so about 2 weeks after I got invited to interview, 3 weeks after I applied, I waited for about 6 weeks to really hear back about, actually, that's not true. It was, okay, the timeline's getting mixed. So I applied. A week and a half later, I got interviewed. A week and a half later, I got a second interview. Then 2 weeks after that, I got the job offer. And then from getting the job offer, it took anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to figure out when my start date was, to fill out all of my like hiring paperwork, and then begin the process of actually starting to work. So from the time that you apply to the time you start know when you start your job, it can be a 2 to 3.5 month process. And so again, it depends on how many people they're interviewing and things like that, how popular, how many people are working on the hiring committee. But it can be pretty lengthy. So if you're hoping to start something like the week you apply, that's probably not going to happen. I definitely applied like April, May, and didn't start working until June. So it's important to be aware that that time will only get longer if the program is bigger or has more people that has to look at it, or there's more people applying.
High school 9 through 12, undergrad or faculty.
Okay, that was the last meeting of the day. I'm actually about to pack up and head to the gym that's on site, but I thought I would answer one more question, and that is, how do you become competitive to get a job at the Getty? And I think the most important thing, especially if you want to work in the Getty Research Institute, is that you have the skills. So while it would be ideal if your research lined up with the projects that you are applying to, I think because of the nature of the work that they do or you would do as a research assistant is 9 times out of 10 more administrative or support than it is principal investigating or like principal researching. It is more useful that you have the bullet point skills or technical skills that they are looking for than a focus or familiarity with the research that they are dealing with. And so if you have both, wonderful. That's probably a great sign that you're going to get the job as a research assistant. But I don't want you to feel discouraged to apply as a research assistant if your research is not the same. I look at Afro-diasporic culture, specifically in Latin America. The research that I'm doing here or supporting here is on African-American art historian named Samela Lewis. I knew nothing about Samela Lewis before working here. And so part of my job was to do some of that preliminary research and to learn who she was, but that didn't hinder me from getting this job. Now again, research assistant is different than other Getty jobs, and those experiences very much vary, and it's always best to be overqualified than underqualified. But in specific to the research assistant position, it is always, always, always best to have the technical skills, and you can always learn the background of the research. I think that is the most important thing to be competitive. Now, if you're interested again in seeing what a day in the life of a Getty research assistant looks like, you should watch this video next. Please ask any questions that you have about my job or the Getty in the comments down below, and I'll make another video. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.